I'm also hearing a lot of people who are looking at patents. Raise your hand if you have an approved patent. Okay. Raise your hand if you filed an actual patent application, not a provisional. Okay. Raise your hand if you filed a provisional. Raise your hand if you're thinking about all of this and haven't done it yet. Okay, I got it. All right. All right, I might piss some of you off today, if I'm honest.
Oh, you will. You're not very valuable.
One thing that I am very different on, so I know we'll get into all this later. So I studied intellectual property law. I do have a certificate in it. But I studied business as well, and I went on to do advanced licensing, tech, all of those types of things for about 20 years. I have worked internationally for multiple companies, including Fortune 500s, as their attorney in-house, which means I'm not the one filing the patents, but I'm the one helping the business make money from them. Any intellectual property, in fact. And as we'll see today, when I use the word intellectual property, I don't mean the core pieces of intellectual property we are used to. In the tech space, patents are very shiny and sparkly. It's a beautiful name thanks to Silicon Valley. But a majority of the time, we either lose the value in having one, or we have to rethink how we want to derive value from it. So I'll share, now that I know a little bit more of all of you today, when we get to that part, I'll tell you some stories that will hopefully spark some ideas or reassessment to you. Because I have had a client who spent $20,000 to realize he had nothing on a patent. Then I've had somebody else file patents, go through the whole fighting, everything, had an attorney involved, and then at the end of it realized he never thought about the ROI. So I'll share those stories with you today, as well as some other things about patents, even though what I'm going to share with you is probably stuff you know, but let's expand on it so you can get a bit more, better assessment on the business side. And that's what's different about me than working with a patent attorney or an IP attorney. Their job is to file the intellectual property and get you that asset. My job is to help you build a business, generate revenue, write the licenses, scale from it, and so on. That was a lot more than I expected to say, but only because I have this room. Hello.
I was trying to find you. I found you.
I am here. I know, the big sparkly pinky dress, right? Yes. So as you can see, there's a legit tech matter here. I'll just go ahead and start, right? You won't have the visuals, but is everyone okay if I just start for a little bit and then we catch up with the visuals? I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Since you were all here on time, raise your hand if you've ever had a great idea. Yeah, brilliant ideas. Who doesn't have them? Every human has ideas, and we're like, yes, yes. I love my ideas. Have you ever had $1 million idea?
Sure.
Not everyone's hand went up. Some of you don't believe in your ideas, huh? Most of you are like, I want it to be. So, where's my remote? Here we go. Okay. What is the difference between a great idea and $1 million idea?
How much return on investment you can make?
That's a great answer. Anybody else?
What did you say?
The great idea is the one that solves a problem.
A great idea is one that solves a problem? He said it comes down to the ROI on the idea. Anybody else?
It's an idea that people are willing to pay for.
It's an idea people are willing to pay for. Yeah?
It's an idea that has a positive impact on humanity.
There you go. I like that.
I think that's very beautiful. Yes?
I think ideas are worthless.
Ideas are worthless. Okay.
Execution, the idea is worthless.
And what about you? Yeah, come on up. I've just started anyways.
It's a trifecta: marketplace, solution, viable product.
I love where you have all started to hit at, right? The difference between an idea and $1 million idea is getting the idea to make $1 million. That's what makes it $1 million idea, is somebody took the idea and did something with it that led to $1 million. Today's talk didn't just come because Josh Levitt, the creator of Tech Alley, asked me to do it. I've also had a number of investors here at Tech Alley walk up to me after my talks and say, I wish there was one thing that I could tell these people. And that's your idea is nothing until it is executed upon. Do you have your hand up? Oh, you're just petting the dog. Okay. Because Ideas don't have value. Where do ideas come from? The ether, your brain. Everybody has ideas. Everybody has a lot of ideas. But turning them into something that's worth money is where we start to bring value. It's where we start to profit. So how do you build something into that business, into something profitable, go from idea to profit and $1 million and beyond without devaluing that idea or giving it away, oversharing it, depleting its value? Because maybe it's worth a lot of money if you execute it on one way, but as you start to share it, you depreciate it. This happens a lot with intellectual property. So we get out there and put our stuff into the world, we don't realize if we didn't put the right protections on it, the right boundaries on the relationship, well, suddenly we're leaking the value of the IP, which also means we're leaking revenue or revenue potential. So today's agenda, if you could see it, it'd be beautiful. 1, 2, 3. Idea to profit, taking that idea to profit, and who you will likely connect with along the way. I can already tell many of you are very successful at businesses or understand core businesses. So this might feel a little bit simplified than what you need, but I'm going to point out some things as we go along that you probably hadn't thought about them from this perspective, okay? So bear with me if it does seem a little elementary for some of you at first. I promise we'll get there. The second thing we're going to do it is, well, how do we protect these ideas? Because most companies, having worked for some of the largest companies in their industries, we don't file IP. All those patents you just filed, majority of the time, we don't. Those copyrights you're chasing after, oh, we definitely don't do that. But then how are we protecting our business? How are we protecting the idea? How are we protecting that product, the solution? The same value. We'll get there. And then the third thing we're going to look over today is the framework. It's a framework and a sort of a toolkit. It'll be a part. I'm going to give you all a non-disclosure agreement today. Written by me, licensed attorney. I also paid 2 other attorneys outside of me to peer review this. This was not made by AI. And I'm going to give you a video to help you customize it and use it in your business so you have tools today. I'm also going to give you a bit of a framework of things, sort of like a thinking process, that as you share your ideas, as you try to build your business, you know sort of where to, I call it slice and dice, where you don't want to undershare, but you don't want to overshare. So we'll look at a framework that will help you with that as well. So that's our plan. Right now you'd see a beautiful picture of my face and all of my contact information. Again, my name is Acacia Thornton. I built CEO Legal Coach. And what I do is, as an attorney and a business advisor, I fill the space between doing something yourself and having to go get that attorney. You know how to negotiate your contracts, but maybe having somebody who's been there before or can do this better or can see what you don't see will be of value to you. That is how I work with companies, either one-on-one coaching, sometimes we build our templates together, or we work on scaling. And I've worked with everything from solopreneurs up to those Fortune 500s globally. All right now you would see a nice spectrum where it goes, this is your idea. And all the way over here is your exit plan on your business. A lot of people don't think about their exit plan when they start a business. They're so excited. This is my life's work. I promise you in 10 years, you won't feel the same way. You're going to want to know where you're going. But along the way, you're going to have some milestones. One of those will be sometimes you need business partners. Maybe you started your business with a friend, family member. Someone has the expertise you don't. Let's look at that relationship. How does that come into your ideas? Then along the way, you're going to start to need freelancers, maybe some vendors, some suppliers. Well, how does that come into the IP in your ideas and profitability? And then oftentimes, companies grow into either wanting investors or into an IPO. And we have some considerations there as well. Because profiting off of your idea, thank you, takes building something. as many of you pointed out, if there is not a problem, your solution isn't needed. It's finding the people, the customer base, who are experiencing the problem that your product, your idea brings the solution to. And when we bring that all together, we start to scale it, market it, and so on, suddenly you might hit that $1 million business idea. I'm gonna give these guys just one brief moment to handle anything. Has anything sparked so far?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm here today because I work for the SBA, but mainly in SBIR, STTR research, which you know is very intellectual property heavy. And as anybody in this room probably knows, we have a huge issue with securing our intellectual property and keeping it out of the hands of the Chinese. So I would love to work with you and talk with you offline about the things you can provide to me and the mayor and the governor when it comes to helping small businesses in Las Vegas Valley to protect their IP and hopefully get their product commercialized.
Thank you. I work with the Small Business Development Center of Nevada already, so I'd love to talk with you more. Anybody else got any sparks of ideas or questions so far?
I've already talked with you, so I
Yes.
don't need to go back over that.
Nope. I'll make sure that as things come up, I address it. Who would have thought this level of sharing a screen would cause a problem at Tech Alley? Yeah.
So that an idea is nothing. It's just an idea. It's something you actually execute and have made. That's the process that I'm in right now. I'm trying to figure out a way how to get the money done to turn this idea into something physical.
I'm definitely going to speak to some investor relationship matters later. Probably in the back third, but don't worry, we're getting there for sure. Yes.
I'm curious, you said something which I think I agree with, that usually you don't file patents, you don't file intellectual property. I'm the believer of not doing that as well. Have you ever ran into a case where somebody sold intellectual property before you established the market?
Of course.
Before the market was established?
Well, it depends on how you're defining established market, but if we're simply only need to identify one target customer, then it doesn't take very long to do that.
Do it better. That's about it.
Yeah, that's really about it. As somebody who works, I can't, anyway, NASA and other people I work for and advise to, because I am a federal employee, like, yes, the only thing we can do is outpace the engineering quality, engineering style, and the protection of your intellectual property, which is what she's saying. A lot of these things, there's no point of putting it out there now, because if you actually file a patent, and if it's not a secret patent, it then becomes on a public database, and within about 90
You're
days,
stealing my headlines, man.
your entire project.
Yes. It really comes down to any type of intellectual property. Doesn't even matter, even if you have a patent. Enforceability. The government doesn't enforce your IP on your behalf. It's still your responsibility to police it and enforce it. So making sure you have the resources and the channels to do that is on you as the business owner and the IP owner. It's not a government. When you file a patent, you don't suddenly get the government to come enforce things on your behalf. You're still responsible. So if there was a lawsuit for infringement or something, you're the named party, not the government.
Yeah, you have to go after the infringement against the people who are infringing upon.
Right? And you have to make sure that you have a claim, which we'll get to later. IP claims are actually not your strongest claim. Yeah.
You're talking, discuss, be engaging, talking to lawyers about intellectual property.
Yes, I am. All right, apparently we're just going out without slides. Let's just move on if you're all okay with that. Oh, they took me out of presentation mode. That's what they're working on. For somebody did something that it won't go up there. So the next point to know that is really important is as you're building your business, we just mentioned how along the way, it is very normal and common to get a business partner, to have freelancers or vendors, suppliers, get investors, all these things. It's very normal because you kind of need that to build a business. If it's just you by yourself, you can only get so far. You have to have those things. But a really key headline that is very important to know, no matter where you are in your intellectual property or your ideas or your business, is that the moment you share something without protection, it's not yours anymore. The default is not protection. The default is no protection. You must affirmatively take action. And we're going to look at a few ways because filing IP is not the only one. But the second you share your idea with me, you can't file that patent anymore. The second you post it online, you put it into the public domain. You put it on Meta, you also put it on their platform. You put it into ChatGPT. You want to file your patent application using ChatGPT, the second you put your idea into it, you waived that right. Most business owners and idea creators go to the tools first instead of realizing the very first thing you need to do is assert your protection over what you're trying to build. Yes? That's the public. But you also put it on a third parties, so depending on the user terms.
So say you share texture, this is the business plan, this is like that, or
That's a business plan, not a non-disclosure. We'll talk a little bit later on some clarification for you. Yeah.
Did we change the standard from first to invent to first to file?
it is first to file.
So when you
That's why
said
provisional patents is important.
so when you said the idea is no longer fileable, I thought the default was first to file.
It is, but once you've made it publicly known, that waives it. Once you put it into the public domain, you lose the rights to it. So next up on the board, I was going to have a multiple choice question for you.
Okay.
All right, and the question is, what is the most profitable form of intellectual property? What is the most profitable form of intellectual property? Is it A, patents,
No.
B, copyright,
No.
C, trademark,
Nope.
D, trade secret?
Yes. No, 4.
I have an all the above, I have a 4. What's the most profitable type of IP?
Trade secret.
Trade secrets?
Could you say them again?
Sure. A, patent. B, copyright. C, trademark. D, trade secret.
Hey, Pat.
Patents? So this is a bit of a trick question. Because the type of intellectual property you have has no bearing on the value of it. The type of intellectual property you get depends on what you are trying to protect. Designs don't get copywritten, they get patented. Books don't get patented, they get copyrighted. Your logo is both trademark in one sense because it gets a different type of protection or copyright. It is not what type of intellectual property you have. I say this because of that client I told you earlier who spent $20,000 just to get a provisional patent. Not even the patent file. Provisional patent, and he comes to me, I want to make money from this. Let's do this. Let's sit down, let's get this going. Let's make sure your attorney has everything they need to make this a success in their filing. And I kept trying to get him to sit down with the problem solution. What problem are you trying to solve in the market? Who is the market? And so on, right? The basic business thing we just talked about. Problem, solution, and then the customer. He's like, I don't need any of that. I have a patent. The patent is irrelevant until you do something with it. So he spent $20,000 to realize this wasn't something worth making or selling or building a business around. And that's a harsh one. That's a real harsh one, and I'm really mad at his patent attorney who put in $20,000 for
How do you go about two ideas that are the same in different parts of the world that those two people don't know that they have the same idea?
That's a great question. We're going to get to it a little bit later. But independent, it is possible to have some types of intellectual property. You can have independent, two people independently have something. And then there's other types that it is first, but it's in that jurisdiction.
What's the bare minimum of doing something with it?
Ooh. And here is where the hardest part begins, right? So whether the IP is the best protection route depends on the ROI. So right now I was going to start walking you through all the different types, the 4 key types of intellectual property. So by the way, when I say IP, what I mean is intellectual property, in case I threw jargon there. So the first one is a patent. Many of you already know what that is, right? It's legal protection for new, useful invention process, and it is granted by the government. Which means you have to file with the government. You have to meet the legal requirements to get that. You have to get them to approve it, and voila, you have. Other forms of protection, you don't need to do that. Patent is also the shortest intellectual property. Does anybody know how long a patent lasts?
20 years?
20 years. 20 years.
But from filing, not, yeah.
Right? Which means if you haven't gone to market yet, your clock has already started. Some ideas, though, or your business, you need it to last longer than 20 years. What happens after those 20 years in a patent? Does anybody know?
It becomes public domain.
It becomes public domain.
And the reason why they have the process put in
They
place.
cannot extend. No.
Don't they give you 20 more years?
Nope.
And then once
Oh, that's copyright.
Nope, exactly.
The reason why they allow the patent and the government has patents
Right.
is because it opens the door to people come up and do research to advance the company.
So a patent,
But you can now use Steamboat Willie, so.
a patent, yes, those are, I'll get to copyright in a second, guys. With a patent, you file, and the exchange for the government giving you protection is that you just gave it to the people. They will literally see everything you wrote up, every drawing and every diagram you gave. If you ever think about Viagra, right? There's not a single person in the United States that doesn't know what Viagra is. Well, when that went out to market, they made sure they had a patent on that. So for this first, 15 to 17 years that it was in the market, you had to go pay whatever the price of Viagra was. You had to buy the Viagra brand at that price because they had the monopoly. They had the patent. But the second the 20 years was up, all these generics came on the market. Because all those generics had literally been given the recipe in that patent application on how to make it. So there are benefits to the market by having this time frame. The patents are the most expensive IP to get, and they are the shortest lasting, and they have the harshest reality when it's over. It goes to the public.
It's funny you use that example because in medicine, the major exclusionary process is not the patent office, it's the FDA. In 2009, the law changed where you can exclude for 12 years from the date that your drug or IP is approved, not from when you file. And that's how America.
That is because of how long it takes to bring a new drug to market for approval under the FDA. So it is a very small exclusion.
What I'm saying is that 2009, under the Obama administration, Congress passed a law to change it where it's 12 years from approval by the FDA, which is much longer than patent. Almost all patents have expired. So they're using the FDA exclusion because nobody else can file with the FDA for 12 years after a biologic is developed.
Today's not about the FDA, but you are correct. There are other areas of the government where they have said because we're the ones creating the conflict, we might give you an exclusion. But that is very limited even in the FDA. It's not for all food, drugs, and cosmetics.
It's only biologics.
So, that is a patent. Are there any questions kind of on the RO? I'm going to give you a story. Mark was one of my clients. When I met Mark, we met at a co-work. He was in the middle of filing a patent. He was fighting with the USPTO to get it approved. He did most of it himself, so he paid $5,000, and he was about to get rejected. And to extend this, it was going to cost him another $5,000. So he's stressing, pulling his hair out. I'm like, Mark, what's going on here? He's like, well, I have this patent. I'm like, well, everything I know about your business, why do you have a patent? He was in the business of taking hemp leftovers and turning them into prosthetics that were primarily marketed to veterans. So he was able to sort of recycle unused things, put them into something useful, and put it into the market. But he had filed a patent on the machinery. And I was like, but that's not where you get money. You get money from sales of your product, not how you're making the product. So what would be the value of protecting what your machinery looks like if your machinery is behind doors already?
Just keeping everybody else from using the same kind of machines.
Question? Yeah.
I would say the benefit would be able to license that to other companies.
But that's not what he was thinking. He was very singular-minded. This is my business model. Because when you are in those initial startup years, you have to be singular-minded. You've got to get this thing off the ground. So deviating is possible, yes, but it is not where his head was. And he just stops and goes, shit. I just spent 6 months, $5,000, about to spend another $5K for nothing that's going to bring me value anytime soon. And with that 20-year limitation there, how much money was he going to do? Because even if he can get out there and license it, it's not where his head was, because he hadn't thought of the ROI on the patent. But 2, he's not in the market of it. 3, what does that market look like? Is this the only way to do this? Or are there already other ways on the market? So where, again, what's the point of the protection? But this is a great example of when we go to file or get any type of intellectual property, we want to know what we're going to do with it. Is it worth it? Because that was already behind closed doors. It was away from the public. That even if somebody else had come up with something similar enough, it wasn't a make or break for his business. The $10,000 and the hair pulling out, trust me, that dude was stressed. The ROI wasn't there. Thankfully, we had talked, he switched his approach, but we want to have these types of things when we are thinking, woo! Victory! All right, so the next type of intellectual property is copyright, which is protection for an original creative work, original work of authorship fixed in a tangible means of expression. That is me quoting federal copyright law right there. So it's usually writings, art, music, software code. For those of you who make apps and stuff. This is the life of the author plus 70 years if you have it personally. So if you live to 90 and then you die, your kids also get it, or whoever inherits your estate, they get another 70 years. Because we don't know how long somebody's life is going to be. So it's your life plus 70. Short life or long life. If you are a company, I believe they extended it to 120 years. So they get a flat number, which is why Disney has what it has. They actually extended it because of Disney. The trade-off is that it protects the expression of the idea, not the idea itself. And this goes to your question earlier about can 2 people simultaneously have protection? Yes. In a copyright world, yes. If I see a beautiful tree outside in the morning sun, and I go take a photo, and somebody else sees the same beautiful tree glistening in the morning sun and takes a photo, we both have protection on our photo. They didn't copy mine, I didn't copy theirs. You can independently have matching copyrights. That is not possible with a patent. Patent is one and one only. So this is something different about copyrights. What's needed to get one? There's actually 2 forms of copyright. One is free, one is not. One is free, one is not. The free one happens automatically when you meet the requirements. You wrote a book? Congrats. You now have a patent, a copyright on that text. It's not filed with Congress yet, but I would recommend you do that for added protection. So it's kind of like base protections, and then there's like the plus version. The plus version is when you file. Now, if you have something like code, software, data, very tech type stuff, we're usually in copyright, except for the few times we're in patent. But if every single time you updated your code, you had to go file another copyright, you'd just be spinning your wheels filing copyrights. So we don't, as big businesses who work in intangibles, like software, apps, data, all of those things, we don't file our intellectual property at all. It's not a good ROI, not a good use of our time or our money. Trademarks, I'll go through this quickly. Trademarks are about the logo, the brand expression, and so on. These do have a time frame on them, but these ones you can extend. So as your time limit is up, it's usually 3 to 6 years, you just refile and it goes on. The only requirement is that you're still using it in commerce. Trade secrets. This is one a lot of people forget about because it's not mentioned in the media much. And it's not mentioned in the media because it's a secret. Yeah.
Aren't trade secrets illegal?
Are trade secrets legal?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're an actual recognized form of IP in the United States. Yes.
I knew it.
Yes.
So I always stay away from trade secrets.
So a trade secret is confidential business information that gives a competitive edge. It could have been a patent. It could have been a copyright. It could have been a trademark. But if you put the steps in place to keep it secret, as we'll get to in a second, you get it for free. It also lasts in perpetuity. As long as you continue to keep it secret and take the steps necessary, it's yours. So in my personal opinion, this is the best one. But once you share it with people, like, okay, well now, right back to where we started. We need business partners, we need vendors, we need suppliers, we need investors. What do we do here? So, as we can see though, all IP requires more than an idea to be protected. Back to the question earlier, when does something hit the tipping points? When something starts to become it's gotta be tangible, something you can write down. Copyright needs to be fixed and tangible meaning of expression. A patent needs to be something that can be put and articulated into a patent application. Trade secret needs to be something that you can protect. You have to be able to articulate what it is and why it's protected. So until then, it's not protectable. But here's the other thing. What's the point of all of this? So people don't steal it, right? People don't take advantage of what's yours. No one's going to steal something that isn't worth anything. I have a lot of new business owners, like, I got a great logo. I got a great trade name. This is amazing. Look at my website. Isn't it amazing? And they go and they rush to file that trademark. Back to the ROI question. Why did you do that? Because I don't want somebody to steal it. Why would somebody steal it? Nobody knows about it. You don't even have a client yet. Until something is of value, no one's going to steal it. And if no one's going to steal it, so back to this idea of balancing when we put something into the marketplace, into the world, into the public, because the second we share it, we lose our right to protection, versus this idea of, is it actually valuable to somebody? And we can't always know that, because it might be somebody else who determines that. But there are some things about a business that it takes to become successful that we didn't mention in any of those four. What about the conversations you have with people? Maybe you're trying to talk to Walmart and you're trying to talk to Amazon. You want to play them against each other. You don't want them to know about each other or that you're talking to them. Your processes, systems of how you get things, your conversations, your client list. This is a big one. I had somebody who hired a bookkeeper. It was a great first year, so they brought the bookkeeper back the next year. Suddenly at the end of that next year, every one of his clients were slowly going to his competitor. He couldn't figure it out. How did they know? How did they know how much they were paying, and why were they able to just slightly undercut? Because he didn't protect the client list. The bookkeeper was able to take that client list and sell it. Share it. Even if it wasn't the whole thing, even if it wasn't a full download, he's seen it. He knows what it looks like. He knows the main clients he's working with all the time on there. He was able to share that information with somebody else. It benefited somebody else. So it's very important that we protect all aspects of this. And as I've been saying all day, IP isn't the only way to protect your ideas. That most large businesses don't do that unless there is an ROI, an actual dollar amount that we could put, dollar and time, to filing that patent and having that 20 years, to filing that copyright where my code's always updating. All of those things, the trademark, the logo being stolen, those things, unless we can articulate it, we don't do it. We use contracts. We use contracts. So this was the spectrum that I tried to articulate earlier, right? On one side, we have your idea, and as you grow your business, you have those business partners, your vendor suppliers, freelancers, and so on. As you start to do all of these things, if you have the right terms in place on your contracts with them, when you hire them, when you bring them on, well, suddenly now you can put a contract boundary there. And if you do have IP, like I said, there's some free ones, right? A free copyright. Now I get 2 levels. I don't have to rise to the occasion of filing something, paying for it, policing it. If I have a contract with you, I don't have to worry about China now, because I can directly sue them. If they access my stuff by having a contract with me, I get 2 forms of protection, contractual and the intellectual property that may be there by default. Because of this, big businesses rarely, I've said this a million times now, we rarely file the IP. We do it here. This is why they have in-house attorneys. Because contracts aren't boilerplate. They set the relationship boundaries. Yeah.
So what about what protects you as you're negotiating that contract? Do you need an MSA first or something?
I love you. We're getting there. Exactly where we are going. The gap! What you just said! But there is a space between conversation and signature. What do we do there? Right? How do I talk to Amazon if I haven't signed with Amazon? How do I talk to my freelancers, let them know what I need? How do I know if they're the right people to write this code if they don't see a little bit of it? That's what a non-disclosure agreement is for. An NDA, non-disclosure agreement. What it is, it's a contract that keeps shared information confidential between the parties who sign it, which means it's going to meet the requirements for a trade secret. And now, no matter what the information was, protectable under one of the 4 forms of IP or not, you have a contract boundary. What it's going to do is it's going to create that legal duty not to use or disclose that idea outside of why you're giving it. So instead of placing it on Meta and sharing it openly, if you have terms of confidentiality like a non-disclosure agreement, they already know ahead of time because you've established the relationship boundaries. And that's what can help make sure that they know why you're doing this and what they're allowed to do with the information you've delivered to them. Yes?
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have an NDA agreement signed with somebody that you are not publicly disclosing it, and that does not negate the ability to form other forms of intellectual property.
That comes into the terms of the document itself. One of the key reasons not to make sure you don't have boilerplate in your contracts is because it must be customized, and I'll get to it in a second. What's great about an NDA though is it lets you share enough to build the relationship that you need without giving away the value. Yes.
So anything you write on your phone or in your notes is already like, that goes against the patent, like anything you speak into the public because it's all public?
So when you say your phone, like I have a lot of stuff in my notes app.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
mine.
like
That's
your
my-
notes or your iPad or whatever, so that's
My closed
public and you
universe is
can't
mine.
have a patent?
Yeah, so if it's your closed universe and it's protected, you're safe, but like once I put it into ChatGPT, I put it into something that's a third party. So it comes down to the license terms when you have your, your laptop and your notes app. That says that's yours. There is a level of security. Yes, it could be breached, but that's different than IP. Data security is different than IP, or protection to ideas, where if you put it into ChatGPT, you've literally taken it and put it into a third party, as opposed to just using something that's yours. So even though we see ChatGPT as a tool, like we use our email and something, when you send your emails, generally speaking, no, but if you are using it in something that's like an open source that you know is unsafe, you might waive it. It really comes down to what you're using and how you're using it. It's why, thankfully, unless you're filing a patent, that level of security is not usually at issue on whether or not you can get protections. A copyright, you'd still have the right to it. A trade secret, unless you're doing something like sharing it with a third party. The second you send that email to somebody, you gave it to somebody. The second you put it into ChatGPT, you've given it to somebody. The second you put it on Meta, you put it, right, there's this, when do you take it out of your hands and put it into somebody else's? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. So you're asking really good questions. I'm like, oh, how do I articulate this?
So can we pick that apart a little bit?
Oh, we're swiping ways. Yes.
You said earlier that the minute that you disclose it to somebody, you can't file a patent for it,
If it's a patent, generally no.
but
What I should say is, it's not that you can't, it's that there's an argument for you not to get it.
for you not to get it, it feels like
Without that relationship boundary, you're sharing it to a third party without protection. You're just saying, well, I trusted them. We don't get to use that as a business or a legal argument. But if you say, I have a document, now you do.
Is that for every single meeting, or you can have an NDA that's like for the next 10 meetings?
Great question. So an NDA can have a term. Most businesses, they have about 2 or 3 years. That way, any conversations that come up in that term.
And every person has to be listed?
Every person would sign it. Because every person needs to be legally responsible. They need to know what the boundaries of the relationship and the conversation are. So if I just put your name on there, you'd be like, I don't know about this thing. I didn't agree to this. I didn't know this is what was going on. So every person needs to sign it. That's why whenever you have a new employee, you have a non-disclosure agreement. Whenever you hire a freelancer, you have a non-disclosure agreement. You have a vendor, you have a non-disclosure agreement. It's to protect those things, yeah.
So what I learned in college when I got my bachelor's degree, when you have like, let's say you have an idea, once you break down an idea, it's already copyrighted, correct?
The idea itself is not the expression of it. Let me see if I can give you an example. I want to start a contract business where I am a coach and I sell legal contracts and templates online. That's an idea. That is not copyrightable. That is not patentable.
Isn't it, once it's written down, it's already copyrighted, right?
Only to the extent of the expression of it. So, like what I had just said, if I had just written that down, what lives out of that is not protected. Only those literal words are.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's how you protect your idea.
No, the paper with the idea on it, and then that exact word.
Without letting it out to the public, that's what I mean. Like if you have like let's say I have an idea, I do not want to share it with the public. I keep my idea protected. I write it down, and then I file a patent. That's how it's legally protected.
So your patent is the expression of it. It's how does it work? Why does it work? What are the detailed drawings of how to bring that idea to life? It is the bringing to life that is protected, not the idea itself.
Okay, but at least it's copyrighted, right?
Only the expression of it.
If you write a book on how to build something, the book is copyrighted, not the how to build it.
Yes.
You need to define what expression of it.
Yeah, let's see if I can do this a little bit better. Okay, I have an idea for a story. There's going to be this girl. Her dad died. She's an orphan. She's stuck with a stepmother. She's got 2 horrible stepsisters. They make her do all the work like she's the maid. But then one day she meets a prince after her fairy godmother gives her a ball gown. That's an idea. So if I wrote that down, there's nothing to it until I write the story of Cinderella. Until I give her a name and I describe her dress and I write out the story. I've taken the concept, this idea, and I brought it to life. Stories are copywritten. Yeah. So that's what we mean by idea, to bringing it to life. Same as when we started today, we're like, how many of you have had a great idea? You're like, I've had great ideas. The idea isn't, you can't protect that. But once you start to take steps on it, once you start to get a client list, when you start to have conversations, once you start to build prototypes, write out prototypes, even if they're ones you throw away, right? Now you're bringing it to life. It's these bringing to life moments that become protectable, and particular ones if you start to bundle them together. Depends on what type of thing it is. Things that get patented are usually designs, inventions, processes. Yes. But if you wrote a book about the process, the book is copyrighted. Depends on what it is, picks which category. You don't get to pick which category. The government's already picked it for you. So, but this is why we want non-disclosures, because it lets you share enough to build a relationship without giving away the value. even if the value is still being discussed, we're in conversation. I don't know if we're there yet. Is this $1 million idea? Let's start to talk about it. But now we know that these conversations are private. One of my dear friends here, one of my first girlfriends here, she had a business partner. She had moved from Florida. She was like, I want to do a wellness week here in Vegas. She'd been doing one in Florida for a while. She brings it here. She finds a partner here. They start doing all this. Years of work. The relationship building, the traveling. It was a lot of work. 6 months before they were supposed to put the date on the books, the partner's like, you know what? It's too much work. I'm out. I'm going to go do this in Denver. He goes to Denver. Takes those ideas, takes all the conversations with him. That was value, even though the product hadn't been built yet. They were in the middle of conversing, building something together. And he was able to take that. She's like, can I do anything? Did you have an NDA? Was anything protected under IP? No. You gave it to a third party, to somebody else, even though you trusted them. Because this is something else that a lot of people, I'm going to go back for a sec. I went to do this earlier, and I would have if I had the slide up. A lot of business owners think that all these relationships are supposed to last forever. If your business relationships are lasting forever, you're doing it wrong. But so many times we're afraid to put terms in the contract about what happens when it's over. What happens when your business partner decides to go off somewhere else? What happens if after 10 years you feel like law partners, right? After the practice of law for a bit, the law firm continues to live on. But I want to retire. Get me out of here. What happens then? It's not bad that these things end. It's that we don't prepare for them. We don't plan for them. We don't honor the reality that they will and should. So knowing these boundaries are put there from the beginning. Same with your vendors and suppliers. Odds are as your marketing grows, you're going to go from maybe having a freelancer off of Fiverr to a full-blown marketing agency. Ending one relationship to go to the next is normal business behavior, but we don't think about that when we start the relationship. So it is part of the process here that as you do your contracts and as you share this information and build the trust, that we realize it's supposed to come to an end. It doesn't have to be an ugly end. It could be a very happy one for everyone involved, but it will come to its natural close at some point in the phase of the business. So, what will a good NDA do for you? This question came up earlier. It's going to do 3 key things for you. First, it's going to define confidential information. I've already told you the outlines, the 4 key intellectual properties that the government has defined. That's the only thing that they've ever defined. Confidential information as a phrase is not defined under law. Why? We don't want the government deciding what is and isn't confidential for your business. Only you can know the value. So they leave it up to you to define it, which means if you don't define it well, your stuff's not going to be protected. So do know that there is no one-size-fits-all definition of confidential information. It's very important that you customize that. The second thing is it's going to make sure that your stuff remains confidential, that they can't take it somewhere else and share it like that bookkeeper did. Hey, when I share this info with you for these circumstances, this doesn't go anywhere. And you're promising me that. Because a lot of times small business owners are like, well, I feel like it's adding conflict. I actually see it the other way. It says, yes, I actually can trust you. As a small business owner myself, sometimes I reach out to vendors and I get help, a lot of freelance help, just on one-off projects. And they will be like, well, I don't want to take on any additional liability. Like, well, it's only liability if you plan on breaking it. Otherwise, you're just telling me that you actually stand behind what you're promising me. Because otherwise, why would I have any reason to come after you? The other key thing a good NDA will do is will make sure that the ownership is yours. If I give you something, you have it. It's in your possession, even if we stop working together. Does that mean you can do something else with it, even if you don't share it with somebody else? I'm licensing it to you for a particular purpose. And possession is 9/10 of the law. So if it being in your possession, if I don't declare that from the very beginning, this remains my ownership, I've in a sense given you a gift. Said, here's my info. Here's my client list. here's my technology, here's my code. So a good NDA is going to keep that ownership yours, okay? And again, the real key is customization. I've been trying for years to get AI to write me a decent NDA. It doesn't do it. It helps, gets you there about 80%, but that 20% really, really matters, okay? So I promised everyone I would give you a free NDA. Here it is. This one has been peer-reviewed, drafted by me, and peer-reviewed by 2 other attorneys, licensed attorneys in the United States. All I ask for is your email. You're just going to end up on my list. I don't sell your emails or anything like that. And I'm always here at Tech Alley. But in it, you're also going to get a video on how to customize it and how to use it. So now you can use this in every single one of those business relationships we just talked about. But I have a favor to ask you. Yes, there are terms and conditions on this. But do please remember, this is my intellectual property, and I'm giving it to you for free. Please respect it. I have no problem with you sharing the links and the URLs with other business owners because I want to help them all. But please don't actually share the documents. Please keep them within your business. All right, really quick, this, because I know we're like over time because of the whole tech issues. I did say what do we share, to what extent, and when. So I want to get over that really quick. I made a little acronym. Look at that. Aw, share. That's so cute. S stands for, should they know this? It's really exciting to share ideas. But does the other side actually need to know everything you're saying? Do they need to know everything about it? Or do they only need to know the part necessary to do what you're working with them for? This is another way to also protect your information, is don't overshare. Confirm that they actually need to know the information you are sharing with them before you share it. H, how much should I tell them? Right? Should they know this? If not, don't share it. And then how much of it? The scope of that. How much code do they need to see? Don't just be like, oh, here's the back end. Like, ugh. How much of your books do they need to see? If you're working with a potential investor, do they need to see the actual client list, or is it enough just to show them the financials? Don't overshare more than you need to. Are our interests aligned? Make sure you're both working toward the same outcome. They might say they are, but are they? What are their other possible outcomes? And I want to say the word investment, but that's not the right one, that they're going to get out of it. Could they do something? Because there's one thing we know as humans. We always mean to do well. I believe most people are really good people and try to be honest. But if something ever came push to shove, you will always take care of yourself and your family first. Sometimes that means we have to make hard decisions that might hurt our business partners, our friends, and our families. We don't want to put ourselves there, but sometimes it happens. And when it comes to your business relationships, like your freelancers, your vendors and suppliers, I promise you they're going to pick their business over yours. So making sure that those interests are aligned in the long term. The risk if they walk away. We already talked about ending relationships is normal. What happens when it's over? What happens if it's over earlier than you expected? What happens? What are the costs? And does your NDA actually define that and talk to it? And then last but not least, establish those expectations. And this is where that NDA gets in there. Because like I said, when you use the NDA and you introduce it, you get a real sense of, well, are they going to do this professionally? Are they going to stand by what they said they're going to do? Are they going to respect what I'm sharing with them the way I want it to be respected? Because that's the power of the NDA. Now this room, is there anybody in this room that's anticipating getting investor money at any point? Okay, I'll give this caveat then. Investors hate NDAs. They hate it. And they have the right to hate it. We talked a lot today about the idea of an idea versus bringing it to life, the expression of it. We've also talked about what's public versus what's behind closed doors. And there's nuances and gray areas. There's not a black and white answer to all of those things. But a majority of the time when you first seek out an investor, what you're sharing with them is generally public or pretty close to public, right? Like your total sales numbers, the type of avatars or client that you serve, the general idea of what your business model is. If I go to your website, I'm going to figure that out anyways. So asking them to sign an NDA can actually make you look like a novice, because it suggests that you don't know when something is worth protecting. You're just trying to overprotect. And it also puts a lot of legal liability on them. They don't want to do that for everybody. They want to like just hear a basic pitch from. It's a lot of legal liability and responsibility. So they just say no. They don't sign them. And that's gotten a pretty big rep in the tech and investor things. Like, they don't sign NDAs. That's a lie. They sign them when it starts to matter. Because it shows how well you know business. If you know when the tipping points are, hey, I'm going to start to show them things I don't want in the public. I want to show them I do business the right way. I want to show them that if they invest in my intellectual property and my business model, I've protected it and secured it the right way. The NDA is part of that message to them. But that also means when and how you introduce it to them. They are the one exception. Everybody else, I'll bring that NDA in right away. I worked for a company, mid-sized company. Their sales team had to make cold calls, right? They're out there cold calling, and as many appointments as they can. Well, the second they got the appointment, they had to send an NDA. They weren't even allowed to have the very first sales call without an NDA in place. Big companies use these every single day, but as small business owners, we're not always aware of that. But that is how early they get brought in, even at the sales level, okay? So I want you to know NDAs are extremely normal, like day one. Before we have the conversations, day one. Except investors, you wait till it becomes worth when we're going from the public into what's behind those closed doors. That's when you're going to start to bring them in, okay? So there it is again, in case you didn't get the NDA the first time. My name is Acacia Thornton. I'm the CEO Legal Coach. I know so many of you had so many questions, and you're all in different places with your patents and your ROIs and everything. Were there any outstanding questions that I didn't get to, or that maybe I poked at and didn't fledge out enough in, because I know I was a little off in my normal talk track because of the tech issues? Yes?
So it felt like what you were saying is like, even to start working with you, we should start with an NDA. Did I read that correctly?
Right, so like an initial discovery call or initial consultation where it's just superficial stuff. Hey, here's the general what's going on. Here's the type of business I'm in. Here's what this is. But the second we get to, okay, so here's the document I signed. Here's my numbers. We've shifted. Just like my family friend around the campfire. Hey guys, you're going to be my attorneys. I want to tell you everything. And we're like, not yet. So it's knowing the tipping point.
And then the second tangential point, the investor exception,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like carries over with varying degrees of risk for recruitment, contracting with you, right? Like that is a tough sweet spot, because you might not want to join my company until you know why it's actually going to be successful. How do I navigate getting you past that?
The NDA, it's just like any sales conversation. Everything's a 30-second elevator pitch. Even if you're not selling your product to the person, you are selling the opportunity of the business dynamic, the relationship, the opportunity to work together. So we have those initial conversations. Now let's sit down and have a detailed one. It's why you see whenever you have a consultation with lawyers, we make it very clear, we're not your attorney until you sign a piece of paper, which means you don't have client attorney privilege. I'm not responsible and my insurance ain't kicking in. Like, we try to become, those of us who know put that wall very clear. And we try to enforce it from our side. But I can't know what's important to your business. A great example is pricing. How many times do we just go to a website and we get the prices, right? Plan A, plan B, here's your options, all the pricing. You go to their competitor and there's no pricing. You're like, what the hell? It's like, you must reach out, contact one of our sales reps for pricing. To the first company, pricing is okay to be public. To the second company, pricing is a trade secret. They're keeping it behind closed doors. So it's back to a definition of confidential information, but there is no clear cut. Only you can know what's important to your business. Only you can know what is okay to be out in the public. Only you can know what your goals are, right? If you're going to share something that you're about to have a patent, you know that. I don't know that. I don't know that's what you're sharing with me. So you are responsible for knowing what you're sharing, following kind of this guideline here. Walking through this with everyone you're about to have. And knowing that until you're ready to move forward, you have that NDA to fill the gap. NDAs are meant for the conversation parts until you get to the contract. Yeah, we go from intro, NDA, contract. Is generally how it goes.
Hard to figure out.
Huh?
I still think your H is hard to figure out.
How much should I tell them? Well, back to like, I said with the bookkeeping, if you need to give investors your books so they can see the actual flow of the money,
Yeah.
do they need to see who you gave it to? Or do they just need to see that there were 10 clients and this is what the revenue was? There's a difference there. And then what about, now we want to see the contracts that you have with these clients so we know how much time is left. That's a trade secret. You keep that behind closed doors. You don't see that because that can be harmful to your company if that is misused or put into the public. Because the default is the second you share it with somebody else without protection, you've lost the right to protection. So if you don't want me to tell everybody else that you have this list of clients, and this is how much they pay you, and this is what your profit margins are on all of it, and these are your manufacturers and all of those things, which you probably don't, because you've worked really hard to bring your idea to life using that. That's the expression of your idea to build that $1 million business. So they each have a value, and together, they are exactly what makes your business. But only you can know that.